just here in the front row.
Who's got the mic? Oh, there she is.
Billy, do you think the change of government here last weekend will inspire some important music to be made by Australians?
Well, it depends how Thatcherite Tony Abbott's going to be, I suppose, isn't he? Really, you know, if he starts biting their asses, yeah. You know, if it's like the politics we have in the UK, I don't think it's going to work the same. I mean, basically, the thing about Margaret Thatcher was that you knew exactly what she stood for because it inhabited everything she said. You knew she had it in for you. With Tony Blair, I still don't know what he believed in. I still don't know what he stood for. And I think the way politics is conducted these days, and this is going to sound like a dreadful old geezer from the 1970s now, but it's less about principle and more about managerialism. You know, it's, you know, because, yeah, people do vote and think about their wallets, but running a nation, a society, has got to be more than just about the bare economics. It's actually got to be about society. Margaret Thatcher famously said, there's no such thing as society. And we on the left, we have the absolute opposite view to that. We believe that society is absolutely crucial, you know. And although it may not seem that we are such big fans of individualism, I would argue that we do believe that the individual is the most important facet of society. We just believe that unless each individual is the recipient of free healthcare, free education, decent affordable housing, proper pensions, then only the rich and powerful will get to express their individualism. So in this new politics that we have now, where everything is about the price of copper or tin, where everything is purely about commerce and not about the way we live, you know, tough decisions get made. I mean, in my country, we have a situation where wages are lagging behind inflation now, and many people are working on what we call 0 hours contracts, where they are contracted but they don't get any hours. They have to sit by the phone and get called in and only get paid for when they work. I mean, you know, the exploitation that's going on is partly down to the fact that labour isn't as well organised, the labour movement isn't as well organised in the trade unions. So, I mean, I think the change that's happened, it depends whether or not it's cosmetic or whether or not you know, Abbott makes a real difference and starts pushing an austerity agenda. And I think it's hard to tell whether or not he's going to do that yet.
There's someone up the back there.
Over there. There's a woman there with glasses on, with her elbow pointing at us. You, yeah. Put your arm up there. There she is. That's it.
Over there in the second row of the bleachers. Yeah. Thanks.
Here it comes.
Hi, Billy.
Hi.
You were picked up by John Peel, who was a massive tastemaker in the UK. What do you think of the role of radio as a tastemaker with the digitalisation of music today?
I think it's absolutely crucial that someone out there who you don't know, whose musical taste you don't share, you're listening to. I'm pretty agnostic on Spotify, but I don't really want to hear more music like I've already heard. I want to hear some music I've never heard ever that's going to knock my head upside down. That's the great thing that Peel just played an incredibly eclectic mix of stuff, half of which you'd hate, but of the other half of it would be interesting, and half of that would be amazing, and half of that you go out and buy. But here's the thing that's really different about Peel from where we are now. He was the only person doing that, and he was doing it on national radio. So everybody who wanted to hear interesting music, who had an open mind, was listening to his show. So consequently, if you got played on his show, or if you were lucky enough to record a session, you suddenly had an audience all over the country. I mean, I couldn't get gigs outside of East London before Peel played my session. And once I'd been on Peel, I got offers from up the country. Even in Holland, I got offers from. So the atomisation of radio and output that's happened because of the digitalisation of music has taken the focus away. You know, Peel was a filter, a really, really important filter. I mean, it wasn't just little Herberts like me. You know, he broke Led Zeppelin, he broke the Faces, he broke T-Rex. You know, he had form Peel, but it was the fact that he commanded a national audience. And I think what we haven't done yet has worked out the filters for something where you can hear all sorts of music instead of just, music by beardy singer-songwriters who are 55. Surely there's a radio station that does that somewhere, isn't there? I'm sure there is.
All right, we've got time for one more. Has anyone else got a question? All right, here we
Or
go.
a joke. I don't mind either one.
G'day, Bill. What I'm
Hey, Jeff.
interested in in the context of your musical career, if you met the bloke who put out Life's Alright 30 years ago, what would today's Billy say to the 25-year-old upstart? And what would 30 years ago's Billy say to the Silver Fox?
Well, I think that if I saw the 25-year-old Billy Bragg now and had an hour to him, I'd give him a lot of advice about his 1980s haircuts. To them to stay away from that Paul Weller, and it's really a tough one to answer this. But all I can say is that when we were putting together the box sets for the 25th anniversary of my career, one of the things that they found was a TV documentary of the South Bank show from during the miners' strike. So kind of what you would imagine is kind of like apex Billy Bragg period. And they got the tapes out and they sent them over for me to look at. And I didn't look at them for a few days because I thought, now what am I going to do if this kid is saying, the last thing I would want to happen is to, in years to come, driving a 4x4, living on a nice house overlooking the, you know what I'm saying. So I eventually put it on, and to my surprise, this guy was kind of more or less saying in broad terms what I'm saying now. It wasn't that different. Anyone who's followed my career will know that my socialism has never been revolutionary. It's never been about everybody up against the wall. It's never been about attacking people for being part of a consumer society. It's always been about trying to hold people to account. And the language that the young Billy Bragg used, the worldview that he was trying to get together, form, I think still, it's still, there's that line running through it. And if I could put my finger on it and say what it is, it's an attitude of do it yourself. Don't wait around for someone to come and find you. Don't expect anyone in the industry or anywhere else to solve all your problems. To engage with the world. It's a set of principles that I got from punk rock. Punk rock wasn't a funny haircut or a pair of trousers or anything. It was an idea that we ourselves will shape the world. We will stop accepting what we're force-fed, and we will write our own magazines. We will design our own clothes. We will make our own music. And that idea still informs me. It's the thinking behind Tooth and Nail. In the end, there was only really one person who was going to call it on a new Billy Bragg album, and it was going to be me. People were asking me about it. People were saying, is it, cooking vinyl, wanted to know if I was going to thinking about making a record, and ultimately, no one was going to twist my arm to do that because it wouldn't work. I could go in the studio tomorrow and with some songs I've got knocking around, but really, I needed to get focused. I needed to get my arse in gear, and it was down to me. And obviously, to do that, to be able to do that for 30 years, you need a mess of help from record labels, from managers, from tour managers, from journalists, But ultimately, bottom line, if you want to engage in the record industry on your terms, you've got to have a pretty clear idea about how you want to do it and what you want to do. And that do-it-yourself thing that comes from punk, that was was the revelation of seeing the Clash. The thing about seeing the Clash was they were all the great things. The year before, me and my mates went to see the Rolling Stones at Earl's Court, and we were about from here to the back wall away from the stage. But that distance could have been from here to London. We had absolutely no idea how to get from playing in my mum's back room to up there. And then a year later, we went to see the Clash at the Rainbow, and they were doing all the things and throwing all the shapes that we loved to the Rolling Stones, except they were our age. And we suddenly realised, it may seem simple now, but at the time it wasn't quite so simple, we suddenly realised that the only way to do it was to fucking do it. I know it's, not to wait for someone to knock on the door and say, do you want to be a pop star? Not to wait to be discovered, not to wait to get the call from Simon Cowell, but to actually get out there and do it. And that was the spirit of punk. That was the spirit of the age. And that's what still, sent me flying across the Pacific to be here with you in the middle of an American tour.
Sadly, that's all we have time for. 9:30 tonight, Bakery Lane. Everyone please thank Mr. Billy Bragg.
And Steve as well. Thanks you, Steve.